Hi, you're watching our weekly show Poll Baazi with me, Aditi Prasad, and expert pollster Yashwant Deshmukh, who's also the director of CVOTER. Now, it is no secret that the biggest battle this election season is being fought in West Bengal. Depending on which side you are in, you either are predicting a Mamata Banerjee third term, or either you're rooting for the BJP to conquer the Bengal bastion. Now, over the next few minutes, we will take you through the key factors that will determine this mega West Bengal contest, the determining factors. But first, let's talk about Nandigram, where it's the last day of campaigning today ahead of the phase 2 voting on April 1st. Now, Mamata Banerjee is holding a Padyatra there today, although she's in a wheelchair. So technically, it should be called a wheelchair yatra. And BJP chief Amit Shah is also there holding a roadshow and wooing voters for the BJP. Now, Mamata is facing off with friend turned adversary Suvendu Adhikari from Nandigram. And this is a prestige battle for both of them. Now, more so for Mamata than Suvendu, some would say, because this is the only seat that she is contesting from this time. Now, Yashwant, CVOTER has been running a daily tracker in West Bengal and all the other states which are going to polls. What's the sense that you get of Nandigram before we go into the 5 factors that will decide what's happening, what's going to happen in West Bengal? What is your sense of Nandigram?
Well, Aditi, we cannot quote any fresh data because of the ECI embargo that is set in on the 24th of March. So we can only tell and share what we have already shared and told earlier before 24th of March. We cannot discuss any fresh data. But what we have shared, I would just like to analyze and recap and take the audience through, the viewers through that. What was seen as a clear TMC lead in the tracker till the last week was very much there, but the gap was closing down because even though TMC line was kind of more or less static, but the BJP line was slightly going up in the last 12 odd weeks before we did the last poll. And that gain of the BJP, as usual, was coming largely from the account of left and the Congress vote banks. And what it seemed like that after the ISF alliance, it seems that a certain element, certain section of the Hindu votes from the left and the Congress alliance, the remaining part of that, is also getting polarized in favor of BJP slightly. That was our feedback last week, and it will be a very interesting election because when we stop showing the data due to the ECI, and then from there, 6 weeks is a long time in politics. I think 8 phases, 6 weeks. How Prime Minister has started campaigning. So it could go down the wire. However, from the Nandigram perspective, the data last week at that point of time was showing Mamata Banerjee in a slight lead over there. And it looked like that she still holds the sway. But again, saying so because, it's been more than a week's time now between the last data collection and right now, the things could have changed. But it seems that it is going to be an extremely keen contest even in Nandigram. You may agree or disagree, like or dislike Mamata Banerjee, but to the sheer grit that she had shown to, take up the challenge that, okay, I'm going to leave my easy, comfortable seat and take the fight right up to Suvendu Adhikari's bastion. I mean, that is something which is so typical brand Mamata. And even I'm sure for that grit and determination, even her adversaries, including Modi and Mr. Shah, would be appreciating that.
Okay, Yashwant, that's a fair assessment. Although I would say that Mamata Banerjee taking the fight to Suvendu and leaving her secure bastion, that bastion wasn't so secure really, because she had been losing vote share there. I mean, your data itself would point that to you, but not to that extent. It was still safer than coming here and fighting with.
It's very difficult for a chief minister to lose on his or her home seat, unless that CM is extremely unpopular, which is not the case, because we have seen in the tracker data that Mamata Banerjee remains the #1 popular state leader in the state of West Bengal. So that point is very much there. I mean, it's so easy to actually overlook this particular phenomena, but let's not get confused. BJP is giving hell of a fight. BJP is riding on unparalleled enthusiasm. BJP is doing whatever it can, from the machinery to the cadre to everything in between. But
Right.
having said that, we also know for sure that BJP always had to struggle in many of the fights wherever there is some strong popular regional leader from Odisha, let it be Odisha or Delhi or Punjab, or for that matter, even in the previous avatar of Nitish Kumar, when there was a Mahagathbandhan, a strong and popular local leader always had an upper hand whenever the BJP took the fight to their den.
Although the
However,
although those regional leaders are seem to be dying a quick death over the last several, and
exactly.
I
That is
don't mean that
that is an
literally.
interesting trend. And another
Yes.
trend is that even though those regional leaders are popular, there is a almost 10 percentage point on an average of Modi dividend during the Lok Sabha election as far as the BJP is concerned. So people are delivering a split verdict. We have seen back to back two split votes in Delhi alone. 2014 and 2015, then 2019 and 2020. Delhi swung from one extreme to the other just because they wanted Kejriwal in Delhi and Modi in center. So that kind of sentiment, what you can say the Modi dividend, or a sentiment where people are very clear what they want at the state level, what they want at the central level, those kind of emotions are creating a very, very clear cut split vote phenomena across India
Right.
now.
So
It
you
started with
already
one
gone
state,
in.
but it is replicating everywhere.
Yeah, you already gone into one of the key factors, one of the five factors that we discussed, which are going to impact the West Bengal outcome. You've already gone into one of the five factors, which is state elections versus national elections, and how BJP seems to gain in the latter. But that's for the right now. There are comments coming in from viewers, and I'm encouraging viewers to please write in anything that you have to say, a comment or a question. We're happy to take them. Right now, what the viewers are asking is, who do you think is going to, I mean, yes, the fight contest is going to be close, but do you think Mamata Banerjee is going to take it away in Nandigram? And that's what they are asking.
Well, it's a difficult question. It's $1 million question, obviously. A week back till the time we took a dip into the data at that point of time, Mamta was slightly ahead in Nandigram, but a week is a long time in politics. So everything depends on the turnout, and not only turnout, Aditi. Very distinctly, I am telling this upfront. Turnout of the female voters. Please remember, till the last decade, there was a huge gap between the male and female turnouts in all the Indian elections. That gap has got shrunk in the last 10 years. And now that female vote bank is very clearly defining and designing the election verdicts across India. In the Lok Sabha election, BJP got a huge benefit out of that female vote bank. In the
Right.
Bihar elections, in the first round, due to Nitish Kumar's popularity among the females, they won it with the Mahagathbandhan. Second time, it came down to NDA. Nitish Kumar is the chief minister courtesy only and only because the female voters did vote for him large numbers. In West Bengal
Absolutely.
election also, in the last 10 years, Aditi, there has been very, very distinct pattern. In the last 5 years back, for example, BJP, Mamata Banerjee's lead over the left and the Congress alliance vote share in the males was hardly about 3 points, but among the females, it was almost about 10 points. So Mamata Banerjee has benefited for last so many years, last 10 years, whatever the elections happened due to the female votes. Do
Right.
the
And
females
that,
are the females still trying to vote for her? Number one, and number two, will there be a relative higher share of the turnout in the female voters? That will decide a lot of things.
in fact, that is exactly the subject of the Hindustan Times. One of the lead articles on our on in the newspaper today. The manifestos and how the manifestos of different parties through the election cycle have had a special focus on financial assistance to women, and it's across parties, and they've given a rationale for it, and the rationale is that the female voter is increasingly exercising her franchise more, seemingly more than, much more than before, and definitely a huge leap forward from the years immediately after independence. But we'll come to that's a separate subject, and we'll come to that later. Let's go to the first. You said the first key factor that will decide on the West Bengal outcome, poll outcome, and we said that we're going to talk about Mamata Banerjee's popularity. The CVOTER opinion poll has projected, you're already projecting a 158 seats for Trinamool and about 106 for the BJP, which in a 294 member assembly. So you're basically saying that it's Mamata Raj again. Are you saying anti-incumbency is not an issue because she is personally a very popular leader?
Well, it is an issue. If it wasn't an issue, she wouldn't have been down by 50 seats in our tracker. And that also of the last week. Please, that I'm always putting up this disclaimer. She was leading over the BJP by almost about 70, 80 seats 3 months back. And till the last week, that gap came down to roughly about 40 seats, 40, 45 seats. And 6 weeks more to go. The gap between Mamata Banerjee and the BJP, even the last week, if you are talking about just about 40 odd seats, 45 odd seats, it takes only about 20 seats to flip. That is the kind of 20 seats to flip and make the election at par. And 8 rounds, 20 seats, hardly 3 seats to flip in each round. Are you imagining what kind of close fight this is?
Yeah.
If just 3 seats start flipping in each round, it will become at par. So everything is down to the fact that whether people of West Bengal, are they going to deliver a split verdict, or do they feel that 10 years is a long time, and anti-incumbency at the micro level, which obviously Prashant Kishore tried to manage for Mamata by denying ticket by more than 60 odd sitting MLAs. That's what I read. And that is a play out right out of the playbook from the BJP in Gujarat, where Prashant Kishore has early worked. So, they always deny ticket to almost about half of their sitting MLAs, and that's how they counter the anti-incumbency. He has tried that in West Bengal. That's a new phenomena in that way, but let's see if that can deliver it to Mamata Banerjee. But as far as BJP is concerned, boy, they are charging like anything. Look at the level of enthusiasm in their rallies. Look at the way they are challenging Mamata. Look at the entire might of the BJP is going down in West Bengal. And from Home Minister to the Prime Minister, they are highly invested. They are highly invested in any election, for that matter. Even in Hyderabad election, they were highly invested. That's the beauty of their election machinery. This is West Bengal. Obviously, they would be invested.
And they are hugely invested, and which brings me to my second factor, which we discussed. The second factor that is, which is going to be a decider in these West Bengal contest, is that it's a state election versus a national election, and that in national elections, you said, Yashwant, that you told me before we started this broadcast that if national elections were happening in West Bengal today, the BJP would be looking at a very, very almost a sweep.
Let me put it straight.
Given their enthusiasm.
Aditi, I said this last week in the last poll when we are doing it. In our tracker, when we ask whom will you vote for if the assembly elections are happening today, we also ask the same set of respondents whom would you vote for if the Lok Sabha elections are held today. And there was almost a 10-point gap in the swings, this way to that way. So I have no hesitation in saying this. Suppose if today the Lok Sabha and assembly election happen at the same time within the same booth, I will not be surprised if Mamata Banerjee manages to win a majority in West Bengal and BJP ends up winning 35, 36 Lok Sabha seats out of 42 in West Bengal. I will not be surprised. That is something which we are remarkably observing across the states happening now. And this is something which shows the maturity of the electorate. The way they are identifying between federal elections, state elections, and like that, and that's an awesome thing to happen.
All right, that's a pretty huge statement. You're saying that they can go away, BJP can run away with almost 35 seats if Lok Sabha elections were to be held today. That's quite a sorry, there is a slight disturbance here, but yeah, it's almost like state issues and national issues are different. The BJP is looking really, really confident, however, this time around, especially Amit Shah, going out there saying 200 seats to kahin nahi gayi. In fact, today campaigning in Nandigram, he said that, we are winning here. But how much, I mean, how big the win will be, and he's sort of put it, I mean, which I'm saying all any politician will really say when they are out there amidst the voters. But do you think that BJP's uh, confidence is stemming from somewhere? What is it coming from?
Well, it is coming from the multiple reasons. It is coming from the yearning for the change in the West Bengal to start with. You know, uh, I know this is not a history show, but those who are avid followers of history, in particular electoral history, they would like to, do a little bit more research and go back, right back to 100 years back, the elections that happened in the then Bengal at that point of time, and look into the fact that the right wing politics was always there before independence happened. And post independence, however, the West Bengal politics took a strange turn in going up the Congress and then the 33 decades of left front rule. But somehow this is I mean, ironic. Some would say ironical, some would say poetic, as if West Bengal is going back where it started 100 years back in the first election. Very first election of India, when in that way, for the assemblies and the constituent assemblies, when it was picked up. And that kind of polarization, the polarization which we had seen at that point of time, where Muslim League was one hand and the right wing Indian parties on the other hand, or let me say the right wing part of the Congress was on the other hand. Congress was at that point of a conglomerate of everything from left to right. But that communal polarization, which Bengal witnessed almost 100 years back, that kind of polarized electoral behavior is back. It was always there, dormant. Probably it just metamorphosed in the current form of polarization, and it is gonna here to stay, because the entire political landscape of West Bengal has got changed. It's not easy to decipher it in that way, but yes, it is one of the states which has the highest number of the Muslim voters. It is a bordering state. Bangladeshis and infiltration has been an issue. CA and RC could be a national issue, but it is a state issue as far as Assam and Bengal is concerned. So it's a very different pitch right now, Aditi.
So we're talking about polarization, but this polarization obviously is likely to benefit the BJP or the TMC.
Well, yes and no. You see, BJP worked on that polarization. They almost got 40% votes in the Lok Sabha vote bank, Lok Sabha vote elections. But let's also figure this way, that, with 65% approximately Hindu electorate, you are polling at 40. What kind of saturation you are looking at? While on the Mamata Banerjee, it's like in a relay race. वो कहते हैं ना कि पहला बैटन लेने की वाली जगह पे ही वो खड़ी हुई हैं 35% वोट बैंक के साथ में, माइनॉरिटीज के साथ में. तो अनलेस कि कोई उनके माइनॉरिटी वोट बैंक को कम करे, उधर से खींचे, वोट काटे, फॉर एग्जांपल जैसे आईएसएफ के कारण या असदुद्दीन ओवैसी के कारण हो सकता था.
Which is what I was coming to, Yashwant, the third factor, that this is almost like a bipolar contest. Although the left and the Congress, that the third front, they're claiming to be a third front in this election, and they're projecting themselves as an alternative force to the TMC and the BJP. They're even saying that the TMC and the BJP, the Trinamool and the BJP, are really in cahoots, and they're really similar forces. But do they have the potential to cannibalize votes? And if yes, then from where? Trinamool or BJP?
Both, actually. It's funny to see the prime objective of the BJP, CPM and the Congress is, all of them is one thing, that they should pull down Mamata Banerjee below the majority mark for their own reasons. Left and Congress is looking at a possibility of a backdoor entry. If Mamata falls short of majority, they can give inside-outside support and get back into the power. That's what the thing is. And I, in fact, asked one of the senior communist leaders on my show, and and I said, you are kind of campaigning against Mamata, but if it is hung, will you support her as the chief minister? And he said, खुला खेल फरक्का बादी, obviously हम बीजेपी को रोकने के लिए support करेंगे. So you see, the game is so evidently open that if you are talking about polarization, then to those who want to defeat Mamta, they would just polarize for the BJP right now. And those who
Right.
want to defeat the BJP, they will polarize for Mamta. So when there is a increasing bipolarity in the contest, the scope for the third parties actually starts further shrinking up. And the ISF experiment, if it is a successful experiment for the left and the Congress, then Mamta would be in trouble. But if it goes a flop show, then I'm afraid that, left would be on a terminal decline after this in West Bengal. Terminal decline.
That's interesting. Your views are very, very interesting there. But I want to come to the fourth big reason, because in the interest of time, because we are already past 21 minutes in the show. In the interest of time, let's go to the fourth reason and not dwell on the what you just said, which actually makes for a separate show altogether. We're talking about Trinamool's organizational heft. Normally जब बात करते हैं organizational heft की कि उनकी organization शाखाएं बहुत तगड़ी हैं, it's normally BJP that one refers to, but in Bengal it's surprising that the Trinamool seems to have that kind of the grassroots penetration and more than the BJP. That's evident from the fact that when the BJP needed candidates for their various constituencies, they had to actually look at crossovers from Trinamool, from the Congress, from the left. They didn't find candidates within their own base in Bengal. So how do you see that compared to Trinamool's massive organizational heft? How is that likely to benefit the Trinamool in these elections compared to the BJP?
Well, quickly, 2 points, Aditi, in that. Number one, that obviously BJP doesn't have a bigger face and that kind of cadre. I mean, RSS does have a cadre over there. They have been working hard all across country for them. So is in West Bengal. But the fact that in our tracker, the second most popular leader in West Bengal, the name came from Dilip Ghosh. So it was very clear that BJP's cadre and BJP's core support base wanted their own person to be seen as the CM candidate. They were not really supporting the imported netas of TMC or from any other party. And that's an interesting finding from the tracker. I mean, look at it this way. However, you very, very correctly pointed out that the cadre and the network of Mamata Banerjee is way superior, but there is a very fine division between the party cadre and the so-called business cadre or the Vasuli cadre, or whichever way you can see it, which becomes very, very controversial. The party cadre of Mamata Banerjee was always there even when she was fighting all along for 30 years with Left Front. It was only after 2011 when the Vasuli cadre of the CPM lock, stock and barrel reached TMC's doors. And that is where the bad name and the problems came in, and that includes the violence, that includes the corruption, the violence, everything that part of that network brings it along. However, we don't know tomorrow, which is, suppose BJP comes to power, that institutional part of violence, institutional part of corruption, which even a person like Mamata Banerjee could not afford to keep it away from her. I don't know which party, which kind of network would be able to actually thrash that institutional violence and institutional corruption network of West Bengal. That is I don't see that as a political network. That part is pretty much whomsoever is in power kind of network.
Right. It's more like
that network giving the muscle. Now we see that working for TMC.
Yeah, giving the muscle advantage to Trinamool as opposed to the BJP, which is really manifest in the manner in which right from the PM Modi to Amit Shah, everybody is talking about how the Trinamool goons have beaten up their BJP candidate, or terrorized or threatened or tried to intimidate their candidates. But that is, of course,
ironical. It's actually ironical, Aditi, because we have seen Mamata Banerjee as a street fighter fighting the goons of CPM for so long.
Absolutely.
And our hearts went out. I mean, every person who used to see those images in those 20 years when she was fighting as an opposition leader, they were always feeling that she is the one who is going to bring this down. But it's ironical to see that institution has been probably amalgamated or transferred or I don't know what, but that is pretty much working the TMC way right now.
Yashwant, I can go on talking to you for hours on West Bengal elections, and you know that we've already done that so many times. But I do really want to come back to the last and the final point that we think is the decider, and then I really want to quickly take in a few questions that have come in from our viewers. I want to call them out and thank them for putting in their questions, and I'd possibly like you to try answering their questions. We have a lot of questions coming in from people who are watching the show, but I want to talk about the fifth factor and the AMPHAN effect and its aftermath. Now, parts of West Bengal, obviously, we all saw the images on TV in May 2020 when the AMPHAN cyclone struck, and the aftermath of that, Kolkata had to go without power for 2 whole days. So, huge scale of huge loss of property, huge scale of destruction. 125 assembly constituencies presently who are there, which are obviously going to go to polls, have been affected by the cyclone. And one of the key things that stood out was the fact that everyone talked about the benefits, the relief not reaching the actual people affected by the cyclone, by cyclone Amphan, because of allegations of corruption against Trinamool local level leaders. How do you see that impacting the elections? Because you see the effect of that cyclone is very recent, and many people who've been rendered homeless, they've been crying corruption at the local level. Do you think that will reach Mamata Banerjee's level? Because her popularity, from what we've seen so far, remains at a reasonable level despite all
I would
this.
say whatever dent she is taking right now is probably because of that mishap. Because in our daily tracker, we had seen that post both cyclone, her popularity or anger against her government went up, and the popularity slightly came down. But around the COVID time, post-COVID time, whichever it went up, it went down post-cyclone, and it was only just 3-4 months back that that image or her number started going up again. But there are two different things. Her number, the ratings, her individual ratings have been always good. It was the rating of the government or the anger against particularly the sitting MLAs that was taking a huge dip. Her government's rating went down big time after the cyclone. So that anger is very much there. And even if in our tracker last week, if she was losing 50, 60 odd seats, it was largely because of that anger in there. We just need to see if denying the tickets of those MLAs who are not seen as a working after the cyclone thing, if that is going to help her in some way. But my own assumption is, an idea is that it is going to be a field day for the BJP in that particular zone and region which you just mentioned. And it would be just popularity, individual popularity of Mamata if she manages to pull it out.
Okay, so I'm going to go. That's an interesting thought. I'll leave that there, and I want to go into a few of the questions that have come in from the viewers. In the interest of time, there is Kumar Gaurav who's asking, "What's the realistic chances of BJP Nandigram? Does it look like they can go one up on their prediction in second phase?" Lots of interest in Nandigram. That seems to be the election capital for West Bengal polls this time.
Well, all I can say never in politics. Till the last vote is done, until the last ballot is counted. So yes, it is going to be an open race, and it totally depends on the relative turnout. It is a very interesting term that mine and your support base could be 50-50, Aditi. But if your turnout is 90% and my support base is turning out at 80%, that will give you a 10-point lead over there. So it's not just the overall turnout, but it is the relative turnout of the respective vote banks that will matter a lot on the voting day.
Okay, a related question. This is Nick Gav, who's writing to us and asking, the ground report from Nandigram, it has 34% Muslims, and it's looking like a cup of tea for Mamta. Is reality the same? What's your assessment? It-
Well, we
Lock,
have
stock,
seen
and
sitting
barrel,
chief
the
ministers.
Muslim votes moving
No,
to
it's just,
Trinamool.
just, just not just the Muslim votes. You see, it's also about the sitting chief minister. We have seen a lot many
Yeah.
sitting chief minister losing on their seats when they are extremely unpopular. My only humble submission is that Mamata Banerjee doesn't seem to be that unpopular among her supporters.
Hmm.
Among her opponents, she is extremely unpopular. But
Right.
and it should come very easy for even the BJP supporters to understand. Yogi Adityanath, very popular among the BJP supporters, extremely unpopular among the BJP opponents. You know
Right.
that. So it's all about how popular you are among your own supporters, and if you have a substantial number of supporters, that can carry your day. That's the issue. So it is highly polarized, but it will be relative turnout. Let's see.
Okay, there is an observation and a question coming in from at the rate of India right now. Why is politics in West Bengal so violent? Now that's really a. I think you've covered portions of that in the previous portions. So
Yeah.
I would request India right now, if you've not seen the entire show, please do
But maybe
watch
maybe
the
just
entire
one
show.
liner would be Aditi.
Sure,
Aditi, just a
please.
one liner would be that when the left came in and the land distribution started, it had a very very angry electorate aimed at transformation of the system and the things. So
Right.
initially, that anger and that violence was aimed at changing the system. Later on, that violence became systematic and institutionalized for political gains. So
Hmm.
what was aimed at a change became institutionalized for status quo. That's the
Right.
difference.
Okay, that's. I hope that answers your question. And then I have time for one last question from Aparna Divedi. Will Bengali versus non-Bengali polarization tactic work in favor of the Trinamool, work in favor of Mamata Banerjee? And that is really the other polarization which has taken place. I mean, we've talked about Hindu-Muslim polarization, and we've sort of said that it's the BJP and of course the Trinamool, who are promoting that polarization. But there's also the Bengali versus non-Bengali polarization. Do you think, Yashwant, that is working for Mamta?
Uh, it could have worked if she would have taken that polarization in a less offensive way. I guess that making it very, very offensive, she has ensured one thing even after Tejasvi Yadav going and campaigning for her. I don't see that UP, Bihari, and other outsider voters are very enthusiastic right now to vote for Mamata Banerjee. That is one thing. Now, if she is expecting that, okay, I can let go of these outsider voters and just, focus on the Bhumiputri thing that okay, I am daughter of the soil and I should be carrying away. You know,
Right.
I don't think that. Well, results would tell, but a lot many stereotypes about Indian electorate have been made by the media and the politicians. And I genuinely believe that Indian electorate is way more cosmopolitan in its thought process than the politicians or media would like us to believe in.
Right. Way more cosmopolitan in thought process than and yes, it's actually the voter and really there are voters who would actually go while going to the polling booth. They will suddenly decide, okay, I want to vote this and not that, and which is where Yashwant, your C voter surveys also come under flack many times. Oh, but you got it wrong, you were saying this and that, but you've actually not got it right. But that's the beauty of the Indian franchise system, where
Absolutely.
the voter is the key. He may say that he's going to vote one way, but while walking to the voting booth, he may just have a change of heart and say, okay, no, this is me. I have to decide.
And
I don't like this.
he or she may also decide that, okay, I will vote to some X in the polling booth, and I have to tell the researcher of the exit polling organization why in my interview over there. That is also a
Right.
possibility
And
that we
which is
always come
very
across.
true, which is, yeah, and which might well be true, because a lot of let's say, when we talked about the muscle power of Trinamool, which is spread out, I mean, people might be fearful, right, of
Yes,
actually
yes,
coming out and
and
saying
that
that
is
I
true. And
voted X, and
let me
frankly, the
give you a
Indian
figure.
franchise system, yeah,
Aditi,
please.
let me give you a figure which would put the things in the perspective for all your viewers. You see, when we do the tracker, we ask the people that whom will you vote for. There is a significant number which says that I will not tell, I don't know. I mean, basically a spiral of silence. So in other state that don't know, can't say, or refusals to say whom will they vote for ranges between 7 to 12%, but in West Bengal it is almost like 22%.
Oh,
20
wow.
to 22%. That is almost
Yeah,
double than rest of the state. So
that's very
certainly
telling. That's very
that is a
telling.
very, very telling. That tells you a lot about the spiral of silence there.
The spiral of silence there in West Bengal. Well, it was there definitely there in the years, for 3 decades that the left front ruled, and then now it seems to be continuing under the Trinamool rule. And let's see what the years bring. Will Mamata Banerjee get back? Get a hat trick and get a third term in the chief minister's chair? Well, she certainly hopes so, and so do many Trinamool supporters. Of course, the Modi, as some reader was just one of the viewers put in a comment in the box, the Modi Mithun machine will not allow this to happen. So now it's become Modi and Mithun Chakrabarti machine. Actually, Mithun Chakrabarti has been quite a draw these elections for the BJP. But well, the crowd pulling and whether that actually converts into votes is, of course, something that we
Come
need
on,
to see.
Aditi. I mean, if Mithunda is here, vote me and you rush to see him. I mean, that's we may or we may not vote for the party that one
Exactly,
star
exactly.
represents, but star
Yeah.
power is star
So,
power.
which is what, yeah, and which is what you were saying, that the enthusiasm, the vitality which the BJP has brought to the West Bengal poll grounds this election season, of course, it remains unmatched. So, yeah. But thank you, viewers, for watching this. I think we've had I mean, I always love talking to you, Yashwant, because it's always a good, nice back and forth banter. But great to have you on the show. And we'll see you again next week. And we hope to look at what's happening in Tamil Nadu next week. Do tune in, viewers. It will be next Monday at 6 p.m. Till then, please. Don't forget to click the bell icon below if you're watching us on YouTube, to subscribe to our YouTube channel and never miss an update from Hindustan Times again. Thank you for watching this show. Thank you, Yashwant, for being there with us and educating us and informing us and telling us so many things. And really great to have you with us. Thanks. Goodbye.
Again.